Hi, I'm Miriam.
Hi, I'm Kim.
This is our friend that we're interviewing. We're gonna let her introduce herself and tell you guys a little bit about herself.
Hi, my name is Amaka. I am currently a junior here at the University of Maryland, and I work on campus. I'm a peer sex educator, and a lot of the work that I do is just talk to people and just educate them on safe sex practices. We don't really push for abstinence as much because, we're all in college, so it's kind of like just one of those things. And this position allows me to reach out to a lot of different populations, both men and women. And it allows me, it's also a learning experience for myself. So I did take some notes down because I didn't really know what you guys were gonna ask. But just a couple things I had in mind.
Okay, so we'll start with the first question. So my first question for you is, when you're speaking about feminist issues, who is your main audience or target?
I typically try to target men just because they have an equal investment, or I guess I would say maybe not investment, but they also are stakeholders in the whole feminist movement, as some of their loved ones end up being women as well. So they can also use their power in the society to kind of have an influence on the current feminist issues today.
Do you only target men, or is it everyone?
Everyone, but I try to also talk to men and kind of explain to them that they also can contribute and aid in the advancement of the overall women's rights movement.
Do you feel if men had more of an influence over what females did in a good way, that we'd be able to make an impact more on what females feel that they can do in the workplace?
Yeah, I feel like men can use their role as having more power, and just how they're disproportionately. There's a lot of ways in which men are disproportionately more impactful or have more power than women. So I feel like they can use their positions of power to kind of encourage women as a whole and kind of uplift them so that we can kind of reach that equity.
Yeah. So the next question I have is, does being a peer sex educator influence your views on women's rights?
Yeah, because as a sex educator, I'm constantly reminded of how society kind of has reduced women's sexuality to just pleasing men in general. And the issue that we kind of see now is that sex is kind of a taboo topic where people don't really want to talk about it. But for some reason, the idea of people speaking out about their contraception and what they want to do with their own bodies has kind of been problematic and raised some type of I don't want to say concerns, but it's kind of one of those issues where people are very divided. So I use my role to kind of just educate people, both men and women, of all the options out there and how women can protect themselves, and what options there are in terms of what they want to do with their own bodies, and also inform men, because especially for heterosexual couples where you have both men and women partaking in sex, it's kind of good to kind of level out that dynamic in relationships as well, so both parties are educated.
Has being African caused any setbacks or clashes in your views about feminism in our culture?
Yeah, so I am Nigerian, so a lot of our culture kind of is centered around men, yeah, and it's kind of a very patriarchal system where we're always as a woman we're supposed to submit to men. So a lot of the cultural stuff kind of surrounds around pleasing men, doing whatever they want. So that's kind of conflicted, and as I've grown up, I've kind of shifted away from that because I'm realizing that I, as a woman, am able to do just as much as a man can. So,
do you think those same ideologies that are in Nigeria are also in America, or similar in America too?
I would say yes, but at the same time, I think that America is a little bit more progressive in their ideas. Just because the general makeup of the United States is kind of you have a group of many people from various backgrounds. So I think in a sense, yes, but at the same time, when you have such a large and such diversity with people migrating in and coming into the country, they do carry along with them their cultures and their beliefs. So I would say yes, just because there's just that large pool of diversity, but those ideologies still exist in the States.
Yeah, because I remember one time in class we were talking about Western feminism and feminism in other countries, and I remember like thinking and kind of saying like feminism in America would be extremely different in Nigeria because America is made up of many different cultures, and it's not necessarily easier to embrace, but it's easier to mix cultures and thrive from.
Definitely.
Whereas in Nigeria, even though there are different dialects, there are different people, it is kind of in the same way, the same culture at the end of the day. And so I was just thinking that too, like honestly, like the way of feminism here and the way it's gonna be harder to kind of get people out of that patriarchy and that mindset that women should be submissive or are second best to men.
Yeah, definitely.
So the next question I have is there anyone that inspires you to take action?
Also motivates.
Yeah. I think the first person who pops to mind is Chimamanda. I want to say Chimamanda Adichie. I think for one, it is because she, like I said, I am Nigerian. My parents are from Nigeria, and she is also a Nigerian woman. And it's been interesting to kind of see how she's used her platform to speak on feminism and to kind of like push people, push women especially, and inspire myself as Nigerian and also other Nigerians to kind of take action and like build and develop into their womanhood, and just kind of inspire them and motivate them to understand that you're capable of doing all these things. Don't allow society's views or anyone's views to kind of restrict you or push you down or discourage you from reaching your full potential. So that is definitely someone who inspires me and kind of keeps me going.
So when you said Chimamanda, I remember her being in Beyonce's song. What song was it?
I don't know. Flawless.
She was in Flawless, and I remember her having a whole monologue section, basically saying how people pit women against each other instead of allowing us to uplift each other, encourage each other. We compete instead of for knowledge. We compete for the attention of men. We compete for attention in general, and they don't really allow us to use our intellectual knowledge for us to express ourselves. So do you think people like Beyonce, giving her a platform, also basically encourages the progressiveness of feminism, not just in America but worldwide, because she is coming from Nigeria and she does specifically talk more about Nigeria and African countries?
Yeah, I think for one that Beyonce, just putting her on that track is a very big moment, because Beyonce is one of those celebrities who I don't want to say everyone, but she's a very well-known celebrity, not just in America, but worldwide, basically, So, so Beyonce is one of those celebrities who is well-known worldwide. And when I went on a couple trips, like several mission trips and such. So I've been to like Mexico, Ghana, Nigeria, and even when I went to those countries, I kind of saw everyone, not necessarily everyone there, but people there were familiar with Beyonce, and they're like, oh, I like this Beyonce song, I like this Beyonce song. So that is, in itself, is quite monumental, just because that Beyonce kind of has access to reach, is able to reach such a large population, such a large number of people. And I think that Chimamanda, using her platform as a Nigerian, especially when you think about like what you were saying earlier about Western feminism versus feminism in West Africa, it's amazing to see how Chimamanda is using her platform to kind of push that agenda in that part of the world. Because although there are people who think it, the general culture of West Africa or Nigeria more specifically is leaning more towards the patriarchal system right now. and people who do have like these more progressive ideas are not necessarily as heard, I guess I should say.
Okay, so you're speaking about going to other countries. What do you feel like you do to influence people there to learn more about feminism, and how it's not just about like backlash between men and women?
And how do you also implement your pure sex education into that knowledge that you're trying to give to people?
Okay, so the more recent trips that I've been on, I went to Mexico and Nigeria, and while I was there, I really tried to utilize and like apply what I learned in my time as being a peer sex educator. I try to talk to, especially the like teenage girls, I try to talk to them not only about just like their women's health, but also kind of like how to be safe while having sex. And I also tried to, after watching Chimamanda, I think she had like a TED talk, and it was centered around feminism. I can't really remember what it's called, but I tried to also kind of like uplift them. I remember showing some of the girls the video as well, and they were like really encouraged and kind of excited to just learn more and like learn like this new idea. So that was very cool as well.
Yeah. So the last question that we want to touch upon is, do you think that your feminism is different from the mainstream feminism that's advertised?
I would say yes, because my version of feminism is constantly evolving. I think I'm still trying to work on my own version of feminism. As a Nigerian and a Christian, it's kind of like I'm trying to live up to, I want to say like the expectations of both cultures and like how they both intertwine, but at the same time I don't want the different aspects and like the different focuses of both being a Nigerian and a Christian to kind of hinder my potential as a woman. So for example, just going back to how like the culture of Nigeria is like, you know, focusing on men, I don't want that to be kind of like limiting me in my ability to perhaps maybe reach the same potential as a man. In terms of mainstream, I also feel like as an African American woman, although it's kind of shifting a bit now, I think that the general mainstream feminism kind of focuses a lot more on white women as opposed to African American women. So that's another aspect of feminism that I'm still trying to sort out for myself.
Do you feel that also, like, in your school, that your peers influence your views of feminism as well?
Yeah, because just being at Maryland, they say, let me not say that, that's not so bad. They say that it's very diverse. Okay, yeah, but I would say yes, in that just coming into Maryland, I have learned a little bit and like kind of like changed as a woman, and coming in I was like told, or like I was expecting like the university is very diverse and such, but there's just been, I've just come across so many different kinds of people, which has been amazing and like has played a role in how I have viewed feminism, but at the same time I've also come to issues where it seems as though some issues, some feminist issues are not as heard and like focused on or held to like a level of importance as other issues on this campus. So that's kind of like one of the things that is kind of hard for me right now, but yeah.
Well, okay.
Thank you so much for doing this interview with us. We really appreciate it. We learned a lot.
Of course.